Okay. Good evening or good morning, depending on where you're listening from. Welcome to episode 178 of the Fantasy Timeline. I'll be your host today at Drew at DR underscore PRA with Bill at Super Duper Flex here. Bill, how's it going over in your part of the world?
Good. Surprisingly warm here in the Detroit area. It was 60 degrees today, which is pretty
Nice.
out of the ordinary for February. But yeah, pretty good. How about in Seoul?
Yeah, I woke up. My boys were excited this morning because there's snow and ice on the ground, and we got to watch a little moving truck try to make its way up this steep hill behind our apartment. So that was their entertainment for about 5 minutes. So
That's fun.
yeah, it got warm last week. It's cold this week, but I'm waiting for it to turn the corner here. Everybody says in the next week or two it should start to feel like spring. So I'm excited for that.
Good.
But yeah, it's been a few weeks since we've hung out here, and it's been the end of the NFL season. We've got some leagues that have rolled over here in the fantasy world. But yeah, we were just talking before a little bit about kind of how the season's wrapped up for the Bills, for the Lions, for our respective teams here. Yeah, tough end because everybody wants to win it all. We were talking about maybe we'd get to hang out and talk about our teams going at it for the big game, but I was about to ask you, based on how the Lions finished, what does that do for your expectations for them next year? Like, I know you mentioned this year felt like everything into the playoffs was kind of bonus and playing with house money a little bit, but um, what are your thoughts for next year? How are you kind of managing the expectations there? Or where are you setting the bar?
I'm not managing my expectations at all, so I'm excited for
That's the
it.
right
I
answer.
think there's a lot of things working in their favor. They have a decent amount of money they can spend. They have pretty much everybody coming back of note. They just have to replace some guards. And if they can upgrade at maybe two defensive positions, they're in pretty good shape. I mean, they were obviously the worst defense of the final four teams. That's pretty much the difference between them and the other three. Their offense, showed that it was as good as anyone. I'm pretty sure they were top in the league for yardage and fourth in scoring. So feel pretty good about that. So yeah, I'm not managing it at all. I'm
That's
excited. We'll
awesome.
see what happens. Like, I'm not saying Super Bowl or bust. Like, I mean, it's not easy to win in the playoffs. It's all matchup dependent, things like that. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm not, like one of those fans that's completely irrational. I understand that. Even though I feel the team will be better this year, it may not be as successful in the postseason as it was this year. They're pretty fortunate. They played a good game against the Rams, and then an easier matchup against
Yeah.
Tampa. But honestly, the game against San Francisco really, even though they ended up blowing it in the second half, it actually gave me hope because it showed I mean, they were, you know, looking really, really good the first half. So that
Yeah.
gives me hope that at least the matchups in the NFC, I'm not really sure there's anybody I would be like entering this next year is going to be a tier above the Lions, I guess.
Yeah.
And then if they can get to the Super Bowl, there's a puncher's chance. So,
Yeah.
but who knows? It's the seasons are different every year, and a lot of it is chemistry and things like that, and maybe a bunch of these guys get big heads, and they end up with a 8 and 9 season. We just don't know.
Yeah. I don't think that's very likely. I think Campbell's got a better
Yeah,
handle on the team than that. But yeah, it is. I was just seeing something in the NBA recently where in the year that the Warriors went 73-9, they were the best, most efficient, whatever the metric was for the offensive scoring team in the NBA that year. And their same metrics this year would be 21st in the league, only a few years later.
oh
So
wow,
it is crazy how you can't just take for granted kind of like copy and paste season to season. So
yeah.
um, anybody on the free agent list, since you talked about like some money to play with here, anybody that's out there that you're hoping to see in the next couple of weeks some news about coming over to Detroit?
I mean, it's more defensive. Like
Yeah,
offensive, I'm not sure. Like, I mean, maybe the Lions sign a bigger wide receiver. I did read something where somebody mentioned Mike Evans with the Lions. I'm not sure they're going to spend that much money on a wide receiver,
sure.
unless he's willing to take maybe a price break to go to a contender.
Yeah. But yeah,
But
defensively, anybody that
yeah, like Snead from Kansas City, a cornerback, like putting him at cornerback 1 and moving Cam Sutton to cornerback 2 would be like ideal. Because Sutton's probably a decent cornerback 2, but just not a shutdown guy. Snead was pretty dominant. I'm just hoping that maybe Kansas City decides they have to franchise Chris Jones, and then they have no choice but to let him go, since they have McDuffie also. So that's my big hope. But everybody's gonna be going after him, so it's like it's just a matter of probably who's gonna pay him the most, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good position to be in. I know every year we talk about, the salary cap feels a little bit like fake money, and there's some creative accounting and stuff that goes on. But yeah, I think it would definitely be exciting to see. And even this year, though, the weakest defense of those last four, but we saw that it looked like the Lions made a strong commitment to at least make them throw on us, right? Like their run defense seemed to be much more improved, so that at least they could kind of funnel to one part. So yeah, I think when you look over the last few years, the build that Campbell's done there has been really, really cool to watch. Kind of a different piece gets better each year. So I'd expect another really good season next year, barring some crazy stuff happening. But that's really fun to watch from a distance.
Literally.
So yeah. Yeah, we do have, plenty of big names out there offensively for free agency as well, which I'm sure there's plenty of folks talking about that. I've been just kind of perusing the list here a little bit to see anybody that was kind of like after that first group of big names, after you get past like a Cousins and you get past Mike Evans, Derrick Henry is out there, but he's getting a little bit older. So you get Josh Jacobs, you've got who else out here? Saquon, right, is a big name that is either going to be franchised probably or sent somewhere. So anybody that you're hoping to see in a new spot that you think would be,
I mean,
in a better position.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry to like Baltimore is an interesting one. Maybe one of the wide receivers to Kansas City. I have to imagine Kansas City's defense isn't going to be quite as good moving forward. So, and I don't think they want to make Mahomes work as hard as he did this year. We all saw how he kind of acted a little bit during the season. So I don't think they want the mental health situation of it. Their franchise quarterback to kind of be what it was this year. I mean, maybe. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like football is always interesting because the free agency is before the draft, so you really don't know. You kind of just got to fill what you can fill. And like, is T. Higgins going to get franchised? Is, is Pittman going to, get franchised or sign? I mean, I assume the answer is yes to both of them, but Marquise Brown going somewhere. I mean, he's interesting, but probably not as interesting as 3 years ago. I mean, Mike Evans really is the most interesting to me. The running backs, it's almost going to be like just shuffling cards. You know what I mean? Like, maybe Derrick Henry goes to Dallas or something. I don't know. Henry's the most interesting running back to me this season because, like, it's either like if he can just get into a position with like a team that has a really good offensive line, it's trouble. Because if he can get past, get going, get his legs moving, he's pretty tough to beat. So Barkley, I guess, is interesting. There's really not any tight ends, is there? It's all like
No, Schultz, Fant.
yeah, Dalton Schultz is probably Fant's kind of interesting to me in Dynasty, but it's basically like just
Gerald Everett.
Yeah, and I bet they might re-sign him unless they draft Brock Bowers. But I bet they re-sign him regardless, as long as he doesn't want a crazy amount of money. And then if they draft Bowers, then they draft Bowers. But yeah, it's not a real exciting. I think last year we kind of thought it was going to be a really exciting free agent class, but
we expected a lot more, and
running backs just aren't as exciting as they once were. And
no,
I mean, the one thing is with these running backs, like adding them right now in Dynasty is not a bad idea, just because like I've been listening to a few podcasts by draft analysts, and they're like, yeah, this running back class is like last year's class without Gibbs and Bijan. Like the best running back is who was the third running back last year. I can't even remember.
Oh gosh, maybe Achane.
Oh yeah, it would be Achane. Yeah. So
like Achane, then Roshan, and a couple other guys like that. And
like Tajay Spears
in the second round. Yeah.
So it's like kind of like that. Like I think it was Dane Brugler said he's not sure that there'll even be a running back drafted in the first 2 rounds.
Wow.
Which kind of shows you where this class is, unless a team really decides they love that player's skill set to their scheme or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that just also shows kind of where the running back position is valued at this point too, right? They're going to build around, and then I mean, you have all these options at free agency coming up now with guys that maybe they had a chance to make the big money if they were going to be really kind of a standout, but once they get a few years into their career and they realize, you know what, I just want to win, so there may be some more opportunities to deal with somebody a little bit later on in their career. And then quarterback wise, nothing real crazy here. You have Cousins, who's obviously coming off the big injury. You have Tannehill, who's a mess and injured. Baker, right? So the question is, does Tampa Bay stick with him, or do they, let him go and try somewhere else? What do you think is best for his value?
I think staying with Tampa, or if he were to go, I don't know. Like I think that's the best. I mean, or somewhere where there's like a big wide receiver that he can be aggressive with downfield, because it seems like that's what he likes to do. And so that's why I think he did so well this year, was just matched up with Mike Evans. So I don't know. Like I think he needs that big X. But picking a team that's going to want to sign him, you know what I mean? I think it's probably safer and better for him to stay with Tampa. Baker to Atlanta would be lit. I mean, it might be good for Drake London, but that's about it. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, I think I saw a tweet today where the coaching staff said that they want to get Pitts involved more in the run game.
Oh, do they?
And then somebody else shared a tweet that showed that he was 109th out of 110th in PFF's run blocking for tight ends. So
they want him to run the ball. Is there going to be
another coaching staff that just like misuses him? It's pretty interesting. But I don't know. I think what's more exciting to me coming up is trades. Is there going to be some players that trade because people want to get something for players? I mean, because there's going to be players that get traded that we're surprised about. Like we're all talking about Fields, but like there's got to be other players that people are considering moving on from. Especially teams that are maybe decided they're done contending and things like that, and they want to go younger. Maybe they get rid of like some of their older veterans that maybe want to go to a contender also. So
I know there's a lot of speculation for the Bills with, will Diggs be there next year? Kind of where's that window? Has it closed now, or is it closing? There's some interesting possibilities out of there.
Yeah, so like I mean, I don't really I don't know. Like, you think they'll move him, or you think that because I think financially they're kind of stuck with him at least for another year.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting to that age too where, I could see if he really wanted to, I don't know if anybody would pay him what he thinks he's worth, or if he's getting to that point where it's fine, I'll take a cut and go and,
Go play with
Mahomes
his
beats us every
brother or
year.
something.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It's just I just don't know if the team would be willing to, because I don't think they save any money by getting rid of him. And it's like you got to kind of get him. If you completely get rid of all of your wide receivers, then you're like, and you're in
Yeah.
this
Josh Allen's
window.
just running for 1,200 yards again.
I mean, that would be amazing, but
But
like you got to have
yeah.
some wide receivers, or Kincaid ends up being your pass catcher one,
Yeah.
which that could be
Yeah.
fun.
I don't think he's proven himself to be Travis Kelce yet.
No, his ADOT's like 4 or something like that. It's pretty low.
Yeah.
So he's almost like the dump off, like for running backs. But
Yeah.
I mean, it is weird because he was kind of, I mean, he's the first round pick, and you would think that he'd be a lot more dynamic than he looked this year. But he's almost like Dalton Schultz. You know what I mean? Like just a guy who's catching the ball and getting what? Oh yeah.
Shakir.
Short logic, yeah, Shakir. I completely forgot about him. He would be their wide receiver one.
Yeah.
I just drafted him in a startup, actually.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah. So I had 0 Shakir, so I was like, well, I'm gonna
throw it in.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I guess, is there anybody, you mentioned some of the running backs, like, is there anybody you're trying to make a move for, and you're willing to just kind of live with whatever happens with them? Like, I haven't really looked at the trade finder to see kind of where the values have been for some of these guys. Like, I know Josh Jacobs has been a popular guy the last couple of years to try to move around to different teams, and I think of who else. Is Derrick Henry kind of getting that Travis Kelce treatment of like 2 years ago, and he actually has a good amount left in the tank or can be useful?
I mean, it feels like they're not like super. I don't know. It feels like there's just not a ton of movement right now, like from what I'm seeing, at least in the leagues I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, I think because people are now trained to not go after running backs early in the offseason. But I almost feel like it's the opposite of what you should be doing right now, just because like of the draft class this year. If you want guys that you want to be able to plug in, like I don't have a problem adding like Kamara, Henry. I'm trying to think of who else. Maybe like I don't know, even guys like Ramondre and players like that maybe aren't super expensive, but you can feel pretty decent about plugging them into your lineup. Jason's asking about buying low on Nick Chubb. I mean, it depends on the price. I feel like people are going to want more, and they're valuing him highly. And my concern is that I feel it's like 20% chance that he gets back to 75% of what he was. So like I don't know if I'm paying a second for him, and I think people are going to want high seconds for him.
Yeah. Yeah, which based on what some of the early mocks that I've seen, like that high second could get you the first running back in your rookie draft.
Right. And I just feel like Chubb. I mean, I think Chubb's if he comes back and because he's an alien, like many of these superstar players are, and he is a medical miracle, then fantastic. And like I'm not necessarily trading him away on teams I have him, but I'm not going to go out and pay for him either. I'm trying to look at my
you could probably you might be able to get some interesting like package deals with him, though, depending on how you want to balance that out, if you're trying to shape your roster differently. So it may not be like a 1-for-1 for him, But yeah, you could take a gamble on him if you feel good about maybe another piece in the trade, and then you could take a little bit of a risk there. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm not giving, anything in the first, I don't know, 20 picks, 18 picks for him. You get beyond that, and then, depending on the team that you've got, it might be worth rolling the dice there and seeing if he can come back. But yeah, I typically, and this is where I've definitely missed some value too in the past. I typically steer clear of some of these guys that are coming back from major injuries while they're still recovering.
Yeah. Yeah, Chubb went in the 12th round of the startup, right after Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I'd much rather have Derrick Henry in that case.
The next running back would have been like Chuba Hubbard. So
Interesting.
Well, the wide receivers around him were Judy, Mingo. He went before Daniel Jones or Derek Carr.
Interesting.
Yeah, Musgrave and Freiermuth were the tight ends after him. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a horrible pick there if you're shooting for upside. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, I'm not going to bet on him being healthy. And, I mean, maybe he comes back midway through the season, and then is he back to how he was, or is he basically a glorified AJ Dillon at that point?
Yeah.
I did make a trade in Superflex Army today.
I saw.
I had an offer of my Najee for Jake Ferguson, and I don't know. It's kind of going back and forth. I get why it was offered to me because there's some interest with a new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, going to, and I'm pretty set at tight end, so it's not like I needed Ferguson, but I was like, I'm not sure I feel super confident in Najee Harris after this year. This is the last year of his contract. I guess they could pick up his 5th-year option because he was a first rounder, right? I think he was picked in the 20s.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, but I mean, they may not do that just because it's probably more expensive than them re-signing some other running back, and they might be happy with Jaylen Warren. So, I did it. I wasn't overly excited about it, but I feel like probably most people would have taken the Ferguson side. So, I don't know. I had reached out to my co-owner and he didn't respond, so I just kind of just did it. So
I like it. Yeah,
it had been sitting for a few days, and so I'm just like, well, it's 1.5 tight end premium too, so it's not like a huge premium, but he outscored Najee last year.
Yeah,
but there's a concern of Schoonmaker. Maybe he grows this year and takes some away from Ferguson.
You never know.
But there's negatives to both players, so potential negatives to both players.
I mean, you have a better chance of Ferguson panning out in the next 3 years or so, depending on his situation. He definitely has a longer line to return value there. And you've got Freiermuth already for tight end, Kittle, Musgrave. Yeah, you got a pretty good stack of tight ends there, and you can always move something around too. So it'll probably be easier to move one of them than Najee, unless he just absolutely blows up in the first 6 weeks or something.
Well, and Jason says sometimes you got to get the poison out and just make a trade, and that's totally true. And that was part of my reasoning when I did this was let's just get a trade going, because if I'm really indifferent by the trade, let's just make it. Maybe that gives me goodwill with the trade partner next time. And if I'm that unsure if I should make it or not, let's just make it. So nice. And maybe that it jumpstarts some things happening in the league. Who knows? Likely it won't, but maybe.
Yeah.
And I did put a feeler out for our 14 team startup. So there was a couple people.
Okay.
Yes. So there was a couple people that said they were interested in it also, but nobody was interested in running it.
No, that's great.
So we'll see. I said we
Okay.
want to start one in the next month or two. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're in a couple of, I think, same Discords that I am as well and stuff. So kind of keep an eye on those. Is that where you asked some folks, or were you asking through Twitter or where?
It was in Dynasty Theory Discord.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'll probably do it in like the DLF.
Yeah.
And maybe Twitter. Maybe I'll go to Reddit. It's a whole different crop of people, you know.
Yeah. I am not in that sphere.
I've started reading it a little bit this off season because I wanted to try to get out of the Twitter sphere, you know, and kind of get different viewpoints, because there is completely different values in different groups. It's groupthink is truly, you know, real, and so it's interesting to see people's opinions in different sectors. So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
maybe I'll make a low-key account.
Yeah, I mean,
dig around.
You can just be a reader, you know. You don't have to even have an account, really. Just Dynasty. I think it's just Dynasty FF or something like that. So
okay.
But yeah, it's. I actually just joined the Dynasty Nerds Facebook page because I hear there's a lot of activity there. So
interesting.
Yeah, just trying to see a different. Sometimes, like, you know, I find myself getting a little lazy because you read everything on Twitter and it's like,
yeah,
you kind of get biased from. It's the same people responding and it's the same type of thing, and so I'm trying to. I'm kind of probably fiending for football information right now because of the season ending. And so I just signed up for a few things to try to get some differing opinions and maybe see if I can find some leagues of people that aren't in my normal circle, you know?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I think that's probably something worth other folks doing as well. So yeah, I mean, because there's so much content out there, you know, at the very worst, you've lost an hour or two of your time if you go and kind of scroll for a while and it's like you can't find something that kind of vibes with what you're thinking or what you're hoping to find. But yeah, I think there is definitely value in seeing some different perspectives, and that's why we all talk to each other, right? Like we all do things a little bit differently, so it's always good to have some different opinions and get different viewpoints on why, you know, you would or wouldn't do something. So it's a good suggestion. And then, yeah, maybe we'll find something that we can use as a little bit of a differentiator somewhere. Right.
Yep.
So that's awesome. So is there anything that since you're absorbing all this information now, I know you typically, listened or done some of the stuff with the Dynasty Nerds before, the Dynasty Theory guys, anybody new or anything new out there that you're, besides the Reddit, fees you're going down? Anybody else that you're kind of interested in hearing more about what they've got to say, or anything else that you're listening to?
No, I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, so it's like I've really been a little bit more like at this time of year, I'm very like picky as to what I listen to because like you can listen to Dynasty people talking about fantasy or about the draft class, and I just feel like I don't want to be biased by people who are talking about players that aren't draft people. Like I'd rather hear like I'm pretty much a draft capital kind of guy when it comes to rookie drafts, but like, so I've been deleting a lot of episodes currently. So, it's just like, I'd rather hear people just talking about football and things like that right now, because we're going to be so inundated with information and opinions over the next 2 months. And you see it every year in your rookie drafts where people are drafting based on what the Dynasty people said in late February, early March, and not what the NFL said. So like you'll see Malik Willis getting in the first round, because of the somebody's there. Reading something from March and they didn't see that he was drafted in the third round. Like it's just things like that. And so I would rather just hold off and try to be as unbiased as possible. But yeah, I kind of like, there's people I like listening to JJ for like his draft stuff, like, because you can get the analytics kind of stuff from him for fantasy. And I appreciate that. People who are film guys, like I appreciate guys who are truly film guys, not people who are it's their hobby. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just trying to, like, you have a limited amount of ear time, and you just got to pick the ones that you want. And if you're just using it for entertainment, I am not bashing that. Like, I think people, if you enjoy hearing people talk about prospects, by all means do it. But when I'm trying to kind of get my own opinions of players and things like that, I'd just rather get sources that I like, I appreciate in their knowledge, So it's an interesting.
I'm usually a big Waldman guy around this time of year.
Yep.
So,
and if you get like 4 or 5 sources that you really appreciate, and you can kind of like, if 2 or 3 really like a guy, then I'm like, oh, this is a guy I'm going to keep an eye on. It's like, if it's one guy who really, really likes somebody, and then the other 4 are like, yeah, this guy's a piece of crap, like, then, you just kind of weigh it, like, or this guy's really good with running backs, like, then, okay, I'm going to put a little bit more value into his opinions on these running backs. So it's an NFL mock database, that's a fun one to watch, just to see where, how much you'll see. If you take a screenshot of it now, and then take a screenshot after the combine, and then take a screenshot on April 24th, like, they're going to be so different. And
it's like watching the rankings or the placement in your division, those graphs that go along.
Yeah, exactly.
Time lapse.
Yep. So yeah, it's an interesting. Oh, okay. Short Logic says Dynasty Domain on YouTube's been his go-to lately. Yeah, that's good. I'll have to check them out.
I haven't done much on YouTube either yet, but I think here in this part of the world, YouTube seems to be it. Like, YouTube.
I actually use a lot of YouTube. It's like, I pretty much, like, if I'm bored or something, or I can't fall asleep or something, like, I'll be like, okay, let's see what's going on. And there's a ton of great, like, NFL people on YouTube, so it's like all this free content, just like podcasts. So
I need to dig in there a little bit more as well. I've been deleting some older podcasts and stuff like that as well, and just kind of trying to recycle and refresh a little bit. But I to be honest, with the move and stuff in the last couple of months, I haven't been quite as on top of things. So I'm
and this time of year is not really a big deal either,
Yeah, but I'm definitely getting more excited again to dig in and try to, like, curate my playlist for my commute now and figure out what I want to spend the time digging
How long
into.
is your commute?
It's about 20-25 minutes by the subway. It's about 25-30 minutes by the bus. I prefer the bus because it's a little bit more comfortable, but it all depends on if I catch it at the right time.
Yeah. That's cool.
So,
that's fun.
But yeah, most of these, like, hour-long podcasts, I usually listen to them at like a 2x speed, so I can burn through one between the commute on each way, and it's pretty efficient. So
yeah.
So I would take anybody wants to send some recommendations. I'll listen to something a time or two and then kind of go from there. But yeah, I think if we can find a decent startup here, that would definitely give me a push to dig in a little bit more and get a little more serious now about the research and the homework. There's always something about having that commitment coming that kind of pushes you.
Jason, yes. The voices are funny on 2X. Yeah, I listen at 1.5, and it's kind of funny because somebody will, like, hop into my car and they'll be like, are they talking fast? And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know if I could do 2X and pick up what I need to pick up. Like, that's really fast.
It's been a journey.
I'll try it. Like, I watch YouTube at 1.5.
Yeah, I
So
love
you
it.
can do that too. So,
Yep.
yeah, there is a ton of YouTube content. Like people just do YouTube without the podcast portion of it now. And I mean, because you can listen to YouTube now just like a podcast anyway. So,
Okay.
um, so yeah, yeah, it's so many people like you say, like where you are, everybody uses YouTube just like that's their television. And it's interesting how that's the case now. People are just, I don't need to watch like NBC and watch. I mean, granted, I know that's you don't have that, but like, watch, the West Wing or whatever. It's like, oh, let's watch this thing, whatever, some random produced, and
or you
sometimes it's
can
more
watch The West Wing
enjoyable.
on YouTube if you want.
Yeah, you probably
You just-
can. So, oh yeah, YouTube TV, right? So,
yeah. Uh,
so
So
yeah,
if anybody out there is listening and you have some suggestions, I'm open to those. And then we're continuing to look for that 14 team league that we can get started into. I officially dropped, I think, 4 leagues so far
oh okay,
to pare down. So should be in a good place there. There's a 5th that I'm considering stepping away from, but haven't decided fully yet. It may honestly fold on its own, so we'll see what happens there. But I will have more bandwidth either way. So excited to kind of shift. Yeah, I think more into the larger team, the 14, 16 team kind of realm with the extra starters and stuff. So yeah, let's I'll put a couple feelers out as well here, and we can see, in the next couple of weeks or so if we can find something that looks promising, and then maybe we can share some progress along the way here as we go.
cool. Anybody in your brain, just to kind of bounce back to like anybody that you think is worth looking into during the off season? Either A, it's because a free agent, they're a free agent and their situation is going to change, or maybe there's somebody else that's going to be affected by a free agent change, or
I think
somebody you're interested in adding.
I think Derrick Henry in general. I am very curious to see. I know he started later and he takes meticulous care of his body. So I think he will still be very productive wherever he goes. So if people are starting to discount him because he's an older running back and he's unknown whether or not he's going to go to a good situation, that would be ideal for him, whether it's, the offense or the offensive line. I am definitely open to kicking the tires there and seeing. I think even in last year, I made a trade for him like mid-season as a contending team and got a really good value for him. Unfortunately, I lost some other players that I needed, like Chase was out and a couple other folks. I didn't quite make it as deep as I thought I would, but I love that I have him coming into next year. And if everybody's healthy on that roster, it'll be in a good spot. Outside of that, quarterback wise, I'm open to adding some fields. I think we talked about that a little bit last time we talked. So, as the speculation continues to build, and I think I saw most recently, more people are thinking that they're going to take Williams and trade Fields. So, I like that kind of a roll of the dice. I was a Daniel Jones guy a couple years back too. Like when people were all bailing on him, it's like, okay. I mean, he's a starting quarterback who's shown some athletic ability. And, all he's got to do is put it together a little bit. And I think Baker's a good example of that, right? Like he's come back and had a little bit of a renaissance where I'm sure he helped a lot of people this year make it further than they expected, or maybe gain some value back. So I'm always open to trying those kind of things. I don't know what people are asking for Kirk Cousins right now in the middle of his recovery. I know I traded him away for Baker in a couple of leagues. So I don't know if, what that'll play out to be. Otherwise, I'm trying to think other positions. Yeah, we talked about Noah Fant a few weeks ago. He should be a cheap add if you want an athletic tight end. I've always had a thing for his profile. Mike Evans, I feel like I don't know. He's done nothing but produce. So I am not going after him very hard though. I don't know. Again, that might be one where I totally missed the boat, and he might just go and produce another 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns somewhere next year. But um, yeah, I think he's one that if you have him, I would definitely be open to taking some offers and seeing what people will give you for him. And if you get somebody that's pretty aggressive about it, I would take. I mean, I would take anything that has a first included with it.
Do you feel like the people who are free agents oftentimes are difficult to get full value for because you don't know where they're going to be, so people are a little hesitant to buy them?
Yeah, it
And so
depends on their
most of the people are
situation.
bargain hunting a little bit to, I mean, I'm sure that's not the case for everyone, so I think they're still worth like trying to move. But I wonder sometimes if it's actually beneficial to hold off on moving those types of players until once they sign.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe that's just your mileage may vary kind of thing
yeah.
in your
Clarity
league.
definitely affects value, right? You lose some value when there's some ambiguity, but then you have some players where it's like the only direction is up, right? Like they're getting out of this terrible situation, so you can kind of bake some of that value in when you're selling them as well. But yeah, I would say in general, everybody's trying to bring their own slant to the table and justify why they're willing to either give or take what they're saying. Yeah, Calvin Ridley's an interesting one as well. I think a lot of people are probably kind of out on him after this year. So depending on where he goes, if he stays, he's another one. I don't know if it's better that he stays there or if he gets a shot to go somewhere else with a different team and kind of reset again. But
Yeah,
yeah, he
Ridley
doesn't
went in
have
the
as much.
ninth round of the startup, like basically right next to Christian Kirk and Deontay.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, and just before Stafford and Baker. I think I would rather both the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would probably go. I would probably go Baker first. I don't know. God, that's tough. Yeah, that's an interesting cluster. Out of those wide receivers, you said Deontay
Kirk. So his
Kirk.
teammate, Christian Kirk.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I would probably take Christian Kirk first out of the receivers there.
Yeah.
And then yeah, that's an interesting spot. So yeah, I could see going in any order there, depending on what your build is.
Yeah. I wish I knew what these kickers were for the draft picks, but yeah, well,
Yeah,
we got another one in the books. Maybe we can try to do this maybe once a month or whatever in the off season
yeah,
and kind of, just make this
yeah.
our
Let's.
catch up on life call and share it with everybody. Talk a little football.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. Hopefully by next time. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have a league that we're either getting into the beginning of, or maybe we'll even be, in the draft, and we can share some of our journey with that. For those of you who don't know, yeah, Bill and I think we have some things that we think about very similarly, and then there's some differences for sure, and how we approach things and kind of filter through stuff. So it should be entertaining.
That makes it fun because then we'll build a different type of team than we're used to, so that makes it fun also. And it'll be fun just working with each other, I think. So
yeah. So it should be good. So again, yeah, if anybody knows of anything starting up or anybody wants to, talk about maybe running a league, that would be I promise it's a lot more fun than
I already commissioned like 9 leagues. I don't want to commission anymore.
Yeah, I'm only at 2 or 3, and it's enough. So, but I think everybody should do it at some point in their life. It's good experience. It helps you have a different perspective of the game, and definitely works on your people skills in a different way too. For
100%.
But yeah, short logic here. Thank you for jumping in last minute and hanging out with us. Saw a couple other folks kind of listening in. So appreciate you guys joining us here. And for anybody that listens afterwards, hopefully you played at 2x, so you felt like you got value for your time with us here today. But yeah, we'll continue to do some more of this here, and yeah, we can commit to something next month as well, and we'll plan it a little further ahead, maybe where we can get a fuller episode here and actually put something out there that can be maybe usable as we get closer to NFL draft. And then, this is the season where people are switching leagues, and maybe you're taking on a new format or something. So we'd love to hear any questions that you've got. I think we've explored a fair number of leagues, but we know there's so many out there. At the very least, we can maybe point in the direction of somebody that knows a little bit more of what they're talking about. So,
Yep.
But yeah, with that, Bill, I appreciate you being flexible with the time here.
Sure.
And we'll do this again soon.
Late.